What's up, welcome back to the channel. My name is Servida. Today we're going to look at 5 common mistakes that producers make. But first, watch this. Hi, my name is Servida and this is my course Pro Level Beats. So this course is a culmination of the music theory I learned in university as well as 10 years of experience making beats. The best part about this course is that I designed it for the modern producer. The great thing about music theory is that this knowledge is applicable to all aspects of music. Beat making, producing, studio sessions with artists. It doesn't matter if you use FL Studio or Ableton or Logic, it works in any DAW. I've been making tutorials on my channel for a few years now. So if you like the way that I explain things there, this is pretty much going to be the same thing except a bit more in depth. No more clicking around on your mouse trying to come up with a melody. No more moving stuff note by note just waiting for it to sound right. This is like the ultimate workflow trick. This is from someone who's done music for a very long time. I've done all the mistakes already, and what I'm giving you are my highlights. Alrighty, before we get started, we have to make a beat first. Nothing's coming to mind. Let's just get a synth and start fiddling around. Oh, wait a second. Ooh, and then kind of go down. Boom. It's a fun little bounce. Wait, we're going somewhere else. I like that. Yeah, we'll just kind of put that in. One mistake that I always hear is that 808s are playing the wrong note. And before the artsy guys come in here saying, excuse me, music is subjective, there's no rules to this. Yes, of course, that's right. But we can agree that some notes sound better than other notes. Give me an honest answer. What sounds better? The bass on the root note? Or on the tritone like this? And let's give it 2 bars so we can really build up that anticipation. Come on. Come on, let's be real now. So the first thing you definitely want to check on is the 808 sample itself. In some kits, some of the 808s aren't tuned to C. You can see in this Cymatics kit, some are in C, C sharp, D, D sharp. Some like this have it labeled and some don't, and that might cause a bit of problem. Here's the C, and then here's the one on E. Completely different. In FL Studio, the way to fix this is to set a different root note. So this 808 is tuned to E, so I'm just gonna right click E, and now it should sound like the other one. And there we go. So once you get that out of the way, it should be a lot easier. Now, if you want a nice clean bass line, the best bet is to follow the chord progression. In my chord progression, I'm doing a C minor, then a G major. So for my bass line, I'm following that chord progression and playing the root notes. Here's the C from the C minor, and here's the G from the G major. A problem I hear a lot is people following the melody instead of the chord progression. In this melody, it has a G and then it goes to the D. So if we do that, it's gonna sound a lot different. It's definitely not the worst, but it's a bit weird, you know? It just doesn't have that sense of root. You know, just because the melody is doing a G and then a D, that doesn't mean the chord progression is G minor, D minor. So make sure you know what chord progression you're doing. So one big mistake that I hear in a lot of beats is that they're too quantized. So if you don't know what quantizing is, it is the process of transition from a classical understanding of physical phenomena to a... So let's click in some hi-hats. Now, anytime I do that, it's going to be quantized. You can see the notes and you can see the grids and you can see that the notes are in line with the grid. Mainly this is to get a consistent rhythm. So it's definitely not a bad thing. But the problem is the more it's quantized, the more robotic and less expressive it sounds. So here are the really quantized hi-hats. Everything is the exact same note duration at the exact same velocity. It's definitely not a bad thing, but if you want to have a bit more feeling and groove into your beat, then use less quantization. So what we're trying to do is make it sound less robotic and more human. There's a couple methods we can do. If you have a MIDI controller, you can play that in yourself, and that's pretty much as human as it gets. I'm so bad. And if you can't press a single note in rhythm like me, there's a couple things you can do in your DAW. You can see in these hi-hats, the velocities are consistent, and when I played it by hand, you can see that they're a bit more random. So let's just kind of mimic that. The next big thing we have to fix is the timing. In FL Studio, there's a shift knob. So when you turn the shift knob, the notes are slightly offset. On the grid, and I'm going to turn it up. I like to go around here. And let's see when I do it way too much. That's just drunk. You're really looking for that sweet spot in between. You want it to have a lot of expressiveness, but you also want some consistency in the rhythm. And then the last thing you could do is quantize presets. So the hotkey is Alt-Q, and you're going to get this grid here. So under this folder, you have a bunch of presets that have a bunch of different grooves. I really like the preset loose feel, and you can see the hi-hats now. They're behind the grid, or they're on the grid, or they're ahead of the grid. There's a bit more inconsistency, but that's what we want. And that's kind of what I'm implementing in this hi-hat pattern as well. By the way, quantized presets don't work with triplets, so don't touch those. Just kind of select the ones that you can quantize and then just leave the other ones out of it. I like to do that pretty much on the majority of my instruments. Places where I might not do it are the kick and the snare, just because I want that consistent backbone rhythm. If that first strong kick is slightly offset, it kind of just feels weird. Another mistake that I'm hearing a lot is clashing. For example, in this beat, I have 3 melodies going on. I have the chords. Okay, I have this flute. And then I have this little pad. An example of clashing is if I move this up an octave, I move this up an octave, and now we have this. For me, this is clashing because we have 3 melodies, but they're all occupying that same high frequency, even though we have all the space underneath it. So move around your melodies up and down octaves so that they're not in the same space. So for my chords, I want them to be in the middle. Okay, my flute, I want that at the bottom. So that's going to be under it, and then the pad can go on top. So now we're getting a much fuller sound, and nothing's competing with each other. So let's say I'm adding in one more melody. Instead of separating it through frequency, we can separate it through time. So I can just look at these chords. I can see that, you know, there's a little bit of space here. It gets a bit busy, but there's a little bit of space there. So why don't I have my counter melody come in right in those spaces? So even if they are in the same frequency, they won't be playing at the same time. Also, feel free to just use EQ. Just doing a simple low cut or high cut can solve a lot of problems. The next big mistake that I hear a lot is that there's no headroom. So headroom is pretty much the amount of room left that you have in your mix. For me, I have a limiter at 0 decibels, and then the beat is peaking near -6 decibels. So I have 6 decibels of headroom. So what's the point of having this? You know, one of the main reasons is to maintain that audio information. Let's say I turn this kick up and then we record it. So here is the original kick and here is the new kick. You can see the difference right away. So this one, transient and then slowly fades out, but this one is just wall of sound and then nothing. So by having headroom, you're keeping all that transient information. Another reason you need headroom is so that you have room to add components later. It's very, very difficult to add new instruments and drums when you're peaking like this. Your beat might be open enough for vocals, not when the waveform looks like this. And that's one of the reasons why I have Fruity Limiter on my master. The reason it's there is because I don't need to take it off. It's not actually doing anything. I'm never going above that threshold, so it's never squashing my drums. And if it does, all I have to do is just turn everything down. But now I have tons of space for vocals. Yeah.
Halloween, Halloweeny. I'm a ghost, you can't see me. Disappear like Houdini while I'm eating fettuccine.
And the last mistake I hear is that the arrangements are a bit boring. You might have composed the best 4-bar loop in all of existence, but if that's what you're doing the whole time, then it's gonna get old really quickly. And luckily, this is such an easy thing to fix. So first thing you wanna do is split up all your sounds. You can see on my project, I have all my melodies, but all the drums are in a single pattern. So I'm going to go here, split by channel, and now I can move them out, and look how many sounds we have. And this is good because instead of that pattern repeating, now we have so many different combinations we can make. So instead of that 8-bar loop throughout the whole time, we can start doing a bit more variation. Maybe this one we don't have the hi-hats, maybe this one we don't have the rim, maybe this one we don't have the 808. In terms of what combinations, that's completely up to you. You can either do it this way, but I know a lot of people also like to just make a duplicate pattern and then they would change it up each time. For me in my workflow, I like doing it like this because I can just subtract. Another really easy thing is just move stuff octaves. So we can have this. This can be duplicated. We'll have this down an octave. We can make this duplicate. We can make this up an octave. We can make this one go back to its octave before. And now we have even more combinations. On top of that, you can add risers and crashes to really maximize some impacts. So all you're really doing is just taking your loop and stretching it to its fullest potential. And if you already have a really solid 4-bar loop, then this part is super easy. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Once again, make sure you guys go check out my music production course, Pro Level Beats. Let me know if you want to see another video like this, and I'll see you guys soon.
If you have any suggestions, leave a comment. If you like this video, leave a like. If you really like this video, subscribe. If you didn't like this video, leave. Just leave. Get out of here.